The title of this video is pretty self-explanatory, no introductions needed, but I do want to start off and say I really appreciate the support this channel has been getting recently. We're getting really close to 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to ask that you take 3 seconds to like this video. I would really appreciate it, and it does a lot to tell YouTube that people are liking this and to push it out to other people to help grow the following here. That's the power of the YouTube algorithm. If you watched a few of the videos already and you're enjoying them, but you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and also click the subscribe button down below. You could be a big part of getting this channel to 10,000. Let's jump right into it. The number one book on this list is number one by a pretty good margin. It is the most beneficial, and I think will probably remain the most beneficial book to learn about investing for the next 100 years, and that is The Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham. The book was written like 50 or 60 or 70 years ago, but it's still very relevant today. Ben Graham was the man who famously trained Warren Buffett on how to invest his money. The book is centered around Ben Graham's and then Warren Buffett's value investing strategy, which if you're not familiar, just means buying good, solid companies, good investments at relatively lower prices than some other companies are trading at in the market. Now, this book should be number one on any of these lists in any market scenarios in any years, but it should especially hold the number one spot in a year like 2021 when there is so much activity and money flowing into extremely speculative crypto investing and trading. If you spend about 10 to 15 minutes with this book, you get a pretty good idea as to how Ben Graham might think and respond about this current cryptocurrency environment. Definitely go and read this book on your own, but I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek, and that is that it would not be a positive opinion. The book does a really good job of showing readers how to make money in the stock market without taking any extra risk, and it is a pretty technical book in terms of what you need to know about finance and accounting, but maybe even more valuable than the technical aspects Graham discusses are those about managing your emotions while investing. Someone could have the best valuation algorithm in the world, which finds the biggest deviation between a stock's current price and its future expected cash flows, which means like the future business growth of that stock. And they could have all the capital in the world to make investments with, but if they were unable to manage their emotions well, they likely would not succeed in finance. So it's a really important aspect to being an investor. Ben Graham knew this, which is why he put it in this book, which was more tilted towards the general public, and it is an awesome one for people to read. Next is A Beginner's Guide to the Stock Market. This is an extremely valuable book for people new to the investing space. If you're already more familiar with finance, accounting, and investing, go ahead and just read the last book I mentioned from Ben Graham, because that's going to be a little more technically demanding, but this book really is truly for people who are just getting into the space. It's on this list because there are a lot of people in that scenario today. Even though I just complained about the big crypto craze going on right now, it has done a really good thing, which has brought a lot of people to the investing space who otherwise wouldn't have been interested in it. But if these people are going to transition from very speculative crypto trading into serious fundamental and potentially actually beneficial investing for their futures, they're going to need to learn up on the basics of stocks and bonds and how to invest in them. A Beginner's Guide to the Stock Market does a really good job at introducing readers to all those themes and everything else that they would want to know about the stock market, but more importantly, how to actually make money from it. The author, Matthew Crater, is a best-selling author now. He was once a hedge fund manager, and he writes this book in a very useful way. It contains a lot of information that's actionable that people can utilize to better themselves for their futures through investing. It's things like where to open a brokerage account, common new investor mistakes, how to overcome those mistakes, all the things that if you're a potential newer investor, you probably even haven't thought about yet, but other people have. Other people have made the mistakes, learn from theirs, learn from the best, in my opinion, and read this book. The next one, Rich Dad Poor Dad, is one of the most popular personal finance books out there, and it's with good reason. It tells the story of the author who grew up very closely with his father, but also his friend's father, and what he learned from both dads in things like assets and liabilities, income, expenses, and investing. One thing that this book does really well is describes the reality that you don't need a large income to earn a lot of money through investing later on in life, and specifically, the rich dad ends up not having as much money later on, and the poor dad ends up having a lot more money later on because he invested wisely. The best thing about this book is that it inspires a lot of hope, because it shows you that people of medium or below median income can build up a really serious nest egg and a lot of net worth where they can have a very comfortable retirement and pass on money for generations and generations, accomplish whatever they want to financially if they're disciplined throughout their working years. Statistically, like 75 or 90% of people are not going to get themselves rich through their income during their working years. But this book shows you that that doesn't matter. If you invest wisely, you can be just like the people who earn $1 million a year later on. Next on the list is Think and Grow Rich. Now, this one isn't very technical in terms of how to invest money or anything like Ben Graham's An Intelligent Investor, which discusses like how to find specific stocks to invest in, but it's very motivational, it's fun to read, and for some people, it's going to be what they need to start making good financial decisions in life. It's a compilation of stories from business greats of the past like Henry Ford and many others, and it tells the tale of how they went from very poor people starting out in their lives and careers to becoming extremely wealthy businessmen, the paths they took and the principles that they followed to achieve their success. This book maybe has sold more copies than anything else on my list. I think it's like 20 million copies. So if you like the motivational stuff, you're going to love this. And even if you're more technically minded, I think you should give this one a try because there aren't too many really great motivational stories that can result in someone else feeling less motivated. Like, it's just going to make you feel good. So if you have some extra time, go for this one. Next is Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street. And if you're not familiar with Peter Lynch, he's a world-renowned, maybe one of the most successful investors ever. He ran the biggest mutual funds through Fidelity for like 40 or 50 years. There are not too many people in the finance world who can ever say they've accomplished what he has. So some people are actually surprised when he released this book, and it was very readable and beneficial and actually enjoyable to read, because if you've ever heard him talk, he's a very analytical, nerdy, focused dude, and the book was actually pretty interesting. It talks about how average investors can sometimes outperform the pros just by finding opportunities before they do. If that concept sounds interesting to you, I'll first encourage you to read the number 1 book on this list from Ben Graham, because it's going to give you the technical background needed to find stocks that you want to make investments in. So once you have that background, you can read this one and learn how Peter Lynch himself found many of his investment opportunities. He was just very aware when he went out in public. He read articles in newspapers and magazines and watched TV and commercials, and he was just aware of society. He saw the shifts that the business marketplace were trending in, and he saw where people were spending their money, and he based some of his investment decisions on those very things. And those are all things that anyone, you or I, could just go out and do ourselves. So it's a book that really opens your mind towards identifying investment opportunities. Number 6 is A Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. Now, this isn't the most interesting or motivating book on the list. I believe the background on this was that it was just a compilation of some letters to friends or family from the author. It wasn't meant to become a book, but then it grew long enough and people had asked enough questions that he kind of just crafted it into one. It's beneficial because it covers many different financial planning topics, and if you followed this channel for a while, you know I'm a financial planner, and I think these things can be the most important things for people to think about. I shouldn't say most important. In my book, it goes spirituality, health, and then money. So, you know, if you got the first 2 things covered, then this book's your next stop. But anyway, this book could be a really good answer to the extremely popular and very valid trend or complaint that you hear in the United States, at least, which is, why aren't they teaching kids anything about money in school? It's a really cliche line at this point. You hear it all the time, but it's one of the cliches that I actually really agree with. It does not make any sense for school systems to not be teaching kids about personal finance, or young adults for that matter, or middle-aged adults for that matter. And this book does a really good job of filling that lack of education. Finally, at number 7 on this list is Flash Boys by Michael Lewis. This book is on the list for 2 reasons, but before I tell you those, let me admit that I am biased here. This is probably my personal favorite book I've ever read, so it's hard for me to leave it off of any list of good finance reading. The first reason this book is good to know is because there are so many financial transactions in our market today that are automated, and way too few, even professional investors, truly understand how the automation of our stock markets work. Michael Lewis says over and over in the book that he had no idea how the automation of our stock markets work before he started digging into the project of getting this book written. And what you find throughout this book is that there are only a small handful of individuals within all the major companies in the finance field out there who truly understand how the inner workings of the intermarket tradings and the black boxes all work. The book describes Brad Katsuyama, I think that was his name, and he is really upset by the whole situation for many reasons, rightly so, and you can make your own decision if you read this thing, but he starts his own stock exchange, which is still handling a lot of transactions every day in the United States. It's called IEX. The other reason I think this book is extremely beneficial is it would totally disincentivize all these people who are signing up for the discount brokerages and discount trading apps where the trading is all free, but the company is selling your order flow. It would really make all these people signing up for these services take a second thought towards what the company that they're trading with selling their order flow to hedge funds really means. So if you're someone using a discount broker or one of the free to trade trading apps, this could be the most eye-opening book you ever read, and it's definitely a fun one. It's definitely a good read. If you've gotten to this point in the video, it means that you watched the whole thing, and I very much appreciate that. I know I asked you at the beginning to like and subscribe. If you didn't do those things then, please go ahead and do them now. You already stuck around and gave me a long watch time here. That really helps out with the YouTube algorithm too. So, as always, thanks for watching.